Hey, what's going on, guys? Alright, I wanted to go over this NSA topic, and it got me fuming before I actually started to go live here on this video cam, or on this video. Long story short, Rand Paul is trying to block the extension of the Patriot Act, while many neoconservatives are throwing a fit. And weird thing is, President Obama is also saying that, hey, we got to pass this Patriot Act. The same president that said, hey, you know what, the Patriot Act is morally wrong. We went along the lines like that, 2006, 2007. Now he's backtracked in what he said. So it's quite interesting how he has changed once he's gotten to office. And then you see all these neocon warmongers like John McCain saying that this Rand Paul doesn't know what he's talking about, this and that. So you could see the irritation. You could go on YouTube, you see the irritation from these neoconservatives and all their anger directed at Rand Paul. You have to ask yourself, why are these individuals angry at Rand Paul? Rand Paul is just saying that, hey, you know what? Ordinary Americans shouldn't be spied upon. If you want to go and look at the records of an individual who you suspect as a terrorist or a threat, then use a warrant, right? This is not a difficult conversation to have, or this is not a difficult topic. I mean, if you look at these Austin bombers, some people say this is false flag. For all intents and purposes, just assume that it was just a regular terrorist attack that had happened, right? The NSA did not prevent that attack from occurring. Why is that? Right? The list goes on and on and on, right? You could videotape us, or not videotape us, but you could look at our email records and find all this information. But at the end of the day, if it's not being used properly, and if it's being abused like it is right now, what's the purpose of it? Well, another thing about the NSA, and I want to tie in a story that I saw on Friday. Dennis Hastert, the former Speaker of the House, back in the day, right? This individual, he is the third guy in charge, and there were stories as early as 2006, 2007, or even before then, that had allegations that he had illicit relations with these young pages or these young staff workers. And long story short, a lot of people but a lot of people saw these accusations, and the mainstream media did not pick it up. They just said that, hey, individuals like Wayne Madsen covering this are cuckoos. That's what Jeb Bush basically said in 2006. Fast forward now. What year is it? 2015. Dennis Hastert gets busted. The reason is that he took out a lot of money from his bank account to pay off these individuals with cash. And then, because of this Patriot Act, right, you could see that, hey, the government was suspecting, why is there so much money being taken out? It's because this individual had to pay this guy off. So what does this have to do with the Patriot Act and spying, this and that? Now the question remains, what is the government doing with this information that they have? Are they using it to blackmail individuals who eventually get into power? And then if they get into power, they could say that, hey, guess what? You need to do this. And if you don't do this, we're going to release all this information on you. We are going to ruin your lives. So that's really interesting. How many Dennis Hasterts are there in office? I'm not kidding about that. You want to look at another thing? Let's look at Barney Frank. I remember looking at the story that Barney Frank's boyfriend had a male house prostitution at his house. And there were allegedly congressmen involved with it. But that story was placed under the rug. Now you have to ask yourself, what percentage of information does the government have that could be used against these congressmen? I mean, there are a lot of rumors about Lindsey Graham, the individual from South Carolina, that this dude's a homo. And there are a lot of stories out there saying that, hey, this guy, there's blackmail on him, without a shadow of a doubt. I don't know. But what I can tell you, without a shadow of a doubt, is that there have been these congressmen who have been busted, who had dirt on them, and it was only released after they went against the elite's plan. If you want to look at Eliot Spitzer, this individual was the governor of New York, I believe. And this individual, right, he wanted to go after Wall Street because Wall Street was reckless during the last run. And you could say Wall Street has always been reckless. He wanted to make sure that these banks weren't levered to the extent that they were. And he also wanted to remove some of these deregulation that occurred under the Bush administration. And some people say, hey, we want a free market. So what does Eliot Spitzer, or what was significant about what Eliot Spitzer wanted to do? Eliot Spitzer, long story short, he wanted to make sure that there was more collateral backing this system, right? He understood that these laws enacted in 2004 under Chris Cox, this SEC chairman, were ridiculous. And I agree that if you have all these policies with an easy money or with moral hazard, then you're going to have economic malaise. And that's what we've had since 2006, 2007. So, Eliot Spitzer got down. You have to remember, Eliot Spitzer had relations with prostitutes. And that story came out right after when he was about to go after Wall Street. You want to look at some other stories? Well, you could look at none other than David Petraeus, right? You're going to say, what about David Petraeus? He was about to testify about Benghazi, and we would have actually learned what shenanigans went down. My take of Benghazi is that, from what I've read through WND and other sources, is that there should have been, or there was a quid pro quo agreement between the jihadists and U.S. government. Came down to arms, came down to giving them weapons, right? And who knows what David Petraeus would have said. Long story short, stories came out about his mistress, Paula Brodell, or whatever the hell her name was. So you had this information come out against David Petraeus right around the time when he was supposed to testify about Benghazi. And then there are other times where you could speculate that there is probably dirt on these politicians, not some sort of wacky conspiracy theory. If you remember Justice Roberts, right? This guy was touted as the most conservative individual in 2004 when he came in, or 2006. All of a sudden, he voted for Obamacare, or he allowed Obamacare to occur. And it came down to a tax interpretation of the rule. You have to ask yourself, why did a ultra right-wing president, or not president, Supreme Court justice, say that, hey, you know what? We should allow this bill to come through, where we knew that there are a lot of problems with, and we haven't seen the problems with it so far. So long story short, there are a lot of problems with NSA and spying. It doesn't have to necessarily be going against American citizens. We could see what information the government has and what information they could use to blackmail people at the highest order. Now, against the American citizens, when we eventually move to electronic currency system, they could keep all these tabs on us. It is ridiculous. I don't know why these guys in Congress actually want it. You have to ask yourself the question again. How many Dennis Hasterts are there in Congress? Right? That could be one of the reasons why. And secondly, some people may be threatened with money, right? You may have special interests go to them saying that if you don't vote for this, we're going to make sure you're not going to be in office next time around. Or we're going to make sure that if you are out of office, that you are not going to get a decent job when you move out, right? They're not going to get the connections. If you're with the in crowd, right, you get everything you want. If you go against it, well, you have to be careful because you may not have the same opportunities as those individuals who are in bed with the elites. So, long story short, regardless of what you feel about Rand Paul, I think he's doing a really good job when it comes to talking about trying to get rid of this Patriot Act. I know it sounds like a pipe dream, but hey, If you get more and more people supporting him or supporting individuals like him, then you may see individuals in the neoconservative camp, they may back off, or these progressives may back off, and that's what you need. These politicians are beyond corrupt. And yeah, there are problems with Rand Paul, but you need more individuals like him to show these crony capitalists in Congress that these guys are full of crap. Anyways, thanks for listening to me, guys. Leave a comment. Talk to you later.